Recently, ex-chef turned online entrepreneur Frank Greef shared his incredible journey with us, in which he and his brothers started a business in a field they knew nothing about, risking their parents' livelihood, and then selling it for a cool $180 million. Now, as amazing as that episode was, I was reminded by a long-time listener that Frank and I neglected to cover one very important point. One, that if you truly get your head around it, your business and personal life will never be the same. It's an inspiring episode 659 of the 14-year-old award-winning Small Business Big Marketing podcast.
Well, I said, welcome to a small business marketing show where successful small business owners share their souls to take your marketing straight to the lead. Now, here's your host, Mr. Timbo Reid.
And welcome back to your weekly dose of super inspirational marketing. I'm your host, Timbo Reid, and I have an insatiable curiosity for uncovering marketing ideas that help businesses just like yours to grow. And I do that by having a weekly in-depth conversation with a successful business founder that has bravely and generously walked the path before us. You, infinitely more importantly, are a motivated business owner ready to crank out some great marketing to build that beautiful business of yours into the empire it absolutely deserves to be. As per usual, team, there's marketing GOLD dripping from the ceiling over here at Small Business Big Marketing's HQ. So let's get stuck right in. A very heartfelt thank you to those of you who've joined my Small Business Owner membership. Every little bit counts as I endeavour to move away from a sponsor-funded show to a more listener-funded approach. You can check out my 7-day free trial over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. You got nothing to lose, plenty to gain. See you on the inside. Now, in episode 655, I interviewed ex-chef Frank Greeff, who with his two brothers created and sold a real estate marketing business for $180 million, risking their parents' business along the way. Now, if you haven't listened to that chat yet, I would encourage you to do so because seriously, it is an incredible story that gave me goosebumps whilst I was interviewing Frank. And based on your feedback, it's clear that you guys loved Frank's story, but it's also clear that I didn't go quite far enough, as this note from longtime listener Ben Minutoli makes pretty clear. Here's what Ben had to say. Hey, Timbo, please tell me you have plans on getting Frank Greef back on your show again soon. We went the whole episode hearing about his business and how he built it up from nothing and sold it for a fortune and all the lessons along the way. But then right at the end, Ben says, Frank drops the bombshell that he's planning to write and sell a cookbook to raise $1 million for charity in less than 2 months. And to do that, he's hired a videographer and will be doing content marketing costing up to $300,000. Mate, says Ben, you need to get him back on so we can hear about what he plans to do and why he decided to go that way. Well, Ben and others, your wish is my command. Frank, welcome back. Now, this cookbook idea is for high performers that are health conscious and time poor. It's using your past skills as a chef and your newfound skills as an online business expert, and you've clearly got time up your sleeve following the sale of Realbase for $180 million. You could well be lying on a hammock with a MacBook right now. What else can you tell us, Frank?
Okay, so first I'll actually address that one there in regards to time. So I'm still working full time. So I do this as my passion project at morning, nighttime, and weekends. I touched on it last time, but this was my way to create additional purpose in my life. So we've been holding on to this business, building it up from the ground up, and I needed part of the role, the training role of CEO, having 400-ish people there was two parts that I was missing. It was day-to-day, really quick execution. So being able to just make decisions and go and not have to talk to a board, not have to have 10 meetings, as well as creativity. I love creativity. So Timbo, I have this concept, which is we all have a bucket to live a very content life, and you don't have to get everything filled from your workplace. You can source it from other things. So those are my two parts of my bucket I needed, and that's why I went down this journey. Now, as you touched on there, 100% of the revenue comes from charity, and really
goes to charity. You mean
100% of the revenue goes to charity. Well done, thank you. So I'm spending a big cash, but I'm trying to do this as a way. I'm really honest. Like I have a selfish interest and a selfless interest. My selfless interest is this is going to be for children's cancer, and ultimately this is going to be a way to raise $1 million. Like I said, I'm trying to set myself ambitious goals, 3 months. My selfless interest, Timbo, is through this I'll be building brand. A big thing for me is like personal brand and marketing. I'm really clear and transparent that this will be building something for myself as well. So I just want to make sure I laid all the cards on the table. I just don't look like the knight in shining armor. I just want to be transparent and thoughtful.
Nothing wrong with that, mate. Do you say that embarrassingly, or you just that is how it is? And
it is how it is. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. That is how it is. And I think it's important because sometimes people want to put I am this knight in shining armor, and then other people will sniff out. Oh, here's all the 10 reasons you're not. I'm just like, hey, this is it. This is me, and I'm really clear and honest.
So just to be clear, Frank Greef is not perfect.
I'm not perfect. No, very, very far from.
Let's go down a couple of rabbit holes. One is the time management. The other one is purpose. Quickly do time. You sold your business for 180 mil. You didn't get 180 mil. You had to pay your parents back. People need to listen to episode 655. It's an incredible story. But you've got some dough in the bank, mate. You're not under the pump, right?
No.
You are financially free, I am assuming. You had to stay on at Realbase, which is the business that you sold to real estate, domain.com.au. So you've had to stay on there as part of the agreement. You're working for the man now, but again, no pressure, all care, no responsibility. You do have a family, and you are a family man. So
I am.
Why not? You've got the greatest opportunities. A whole lot of business owners listening go, my God, I'd give anything just to have breakfast with my kids. Yes. Why do you need to fill this time?
So I do still have breakfast with my kids, so don't worry about that, Timbo. But the reason is because I went for a walk with my wife, and I had that exact thought, Timbo, which was like I can go sit on a hammock and just chill and just do like family time moving forward. And then I realized I have a bit of an obligation, and so this is a self-imposed obligation, but it's like I'm in a small percentage of the world that has opportunities all around it. We live in Australia; it's an amazing place, and there's so much opportunity. Number 2 was I have the skill set to create financial outcomes. I built over the last 10 years. I have the ability, I have the network, I have the people around me. I can produce capital, whether it be for my own business or other people. And then finally, I also have a giving nature about me. Like when I think about lots of things, I had Kate Reid fly over last week on a Saturday. I brought her over for a girls' lunch, all the girls in my life. So 17
Kate
girls
from
friends.
Croissanterie.
Great leads from Loon Croissanterie. Yes, so I met her. Yes, she's amazing. And so I had her come over. I cooked for 17 of the girls in my life, whether it be friends, family, sister-in-laws, etc., as well as business. I cooked for them all, and she had the opportunity then to meet all of these people in my life and did a live Q&A. Now, I did that for no other purpose than there was a moment where I got to see all these girls in my life being absolutely inspired, and that fuels me, and it fills me up with a great joy. And so that's the view for me, is like I'm giving, I have the ability to generate capital. And so taking all those 3 things into account, I have an obligation. I've created this. I could go sit in a hammock, but as a net outcome to the world, I'm not serving it with the gifts that I've been giving. And therefore, that's the reason that this was a purpose for me. It's like I need to do it because, hey, there's a few people in the world that can.
Wow, mate, that's beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Greef. more rabbit holes. That is fantastic, Frank. Okay, the purpose one, the purpose rabbit hole. This is a big one, and I reckon it's awesome that you've recognised it. Many don't. When I think internally, us humans, when we feel the plates aren't quite aligning, often, and I'm no psychiatrist, but often it's purpose that's missing. We can be all running businesses that we love, maybe because they're making money, but not maybe because they're making us feel full of joy, or we feel as though we're making a difference. So this concept of purpose is incredible. And there's been absolutely periods in my life, sometimes long periods, where I've just completely felt off purpose, and it felt terrible. And then you go and identify, well, what am I here to do? And I guess that's the question. Why have I been put on this earth? And all of a sudden you do find purpose. I personally, and, let's not turn this into a psychology session for me, but he can if we want, Frank. I'll just go and lie on the couch. But,
I'll send you an invoice.
Yeah, that's right. But you don't need it. You do not send me an invoice. I will not be paying it. But yeah, that purpose thing is just so big. Has it always been a part of you? Did you feel on purpose at Realbase?
Oh, I absolutely did. I think it was never a conscious thing, Timbo. But what it, over the period of time, I would have people make comments about me, which is like, Frank, you've got so much energy, you're so enthusiastic. And I think it's because I had such a strong mission and purpose, which my mission and purpose was, we came from, in the episode, we came from no commercial background, I won't go into the story, but ultimately that was this big driver for me is we wanted a big commercial outcome for our business and it created so much purpose. But it was closing towards the end of the deal that I started having the right conversations with the right people as well as listening to the right content. So I had lunch with a guy called David Shane, and he said, Frank, there's 3 things in life you need. Someone to love, something to do, and something to look forward to. And he's in such a simple way to think about it, something to do and something to look forward to is that purpose piece. And his context, why was I talking to him? Well, he sold his business for $1.1 billion in the year 2000. And he said post-selling, he went to the deepest depression of his life. And so he kind of been through this cycle. And so I knew that there was going to be a purpose shift. As I kind of completed that mission, I knew there was going to be an empty void created. And so I ultimately kind of went on a little journey to go like, okay, what is that thing? What is the thing that inspires me each morning to wake up? Because it's going to shift. And it shifts in life. And so it's just making sure you have something. And that something might be, like a big part of my purpose these days is like, how do I raise the best version of my son that I can? It doesn't have to be all business.
It's amazing, I know a fellow who I see most days, and he sold his business for millions and millions a few years ago. And he's pretty miserable. He's got more dough than I was going to say you and I put together. Maybe not, but he's certainly miserable. And it's like he probably didn't give any consideration to, hey, after I sell the business and I'm all cashed up, life's good. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe you need something to fill that hole. It's
correct.
It's incredibly powerful thing to do, Frank. And I just think it's awesome that you've gone ahead and recognised it. What about your 2 brothers? Have they?
Yep.
They're in the same boat. They've experienced the same financial win as you. Are they the same as you, or are they in holes? What's happened?
Look, definitely different. They both have had their own, kind of purpose reshifts. Jacques, my middle brother, he has taken time in the moment to really focus on his family. So he's doing an amazing job. He absolutely adores his children, and so do I. He's just spending a great quality amount of time with his kids before they go to school. So he's in that amazing position where he can do so. He has finished up with a business, and so every day it's about fitness, health, and his family. And he's really, and he's made it his purpose, but he again, cognizant of it. So he's gone and like, okay, I've got to do this marathon, I've got to do the Gold Coast Marathon, whatever it is. It's like having that goal, having something to strive towards. I've never seen him happier. The eldest brother, Ken, is similar but his thing is he's so passionate about coding. And so now what he's doing is he's going, same where he's gone, hey, I've got these skills, and he's now created a YouTube channel online to just teach people how to code and kind of creating a bit of a personal brand outside of real estate, outside of our world, and just helping other people code. And like Timbo, you'll never have met someone quite like my eldest brother, but he just loves it. He's already built like 3 other products. Like he just loves building products. So he's already built multi things. He's always talking about the next new thing, and not because of anything more than he just loves coding, and he loves the satisfaction of getting a product out there and then someone using it.
Last thing I want to touch on, Frank, is you mentioned creativity. I think this is a big one. In fact, I've got an episode coming up where I'm going to dive into creativity. I'm going to dive into the notion of where do ideas come from? How do you find the time to think creatively? What does that even mean? And I think as human beings, we are innately creative, whether we know it or not, whether you're an accountant, an artist, a chiropractor, we are all creative.
Yes.
Tell me about creativity in your life.
Oof, good question. So creativity in my life is this. I'm a big believer in like intention and purpose. So firstly, I have to go, okay, what is my big ambitious, scary goal? So whether it be that raising $1 million, I continually, and not like sitting in front of a mirror, repeat it, but I continually go, okay, that is my big mission. It's really clear and really crisp. And I think about it and I go, okay, like how do different things I'm going to do serve that end state? How do they serve that ultimate goal, right? Everything kind of falls underneath it. I find that if I talk about things and talk through things enough, then what happens when I have space and time, when I create space in my brain, then the creativity is like, it's almost like this little leprechaun in my brain goes, oh, here's this idea, here's this idea. I'm like, where did that come from? It happens naturally. But I think it's like, I could tell you, hey, it just happens naturally, but I think you kind of need to curate the right environment for it to happen naturally. So for me, it's like really intentional. I get on a plane, I travel every week for work. I get on a plane, I go, today's plane, I'm not picking up my phone. I'm not reading a book. I'm not listening to an audiobook. I'm thinking. And I have my notepad there, and I just go, okay, let me think about the goal. And I go, okay, what are the things I'm working on? I'm trying to take things off my brain plate, if you will. I'm creating cognitive space. And then something comes to me and I go, oh, okay, and then I just write that down. Maybe I flesh it out, maybe I don't, but I'm just creating the right environment to let that kind of nourish. And so I think you have to be thoughtful in some processes, but then like just sitting there and be like, okay, be creative. It's probably not going to work because it's like creativity is like a different part of the brain. But Timbo, I feel like there's one part we haven't answered of this person's question, which is like, how am I going to do it in 3 months? And I feel like that was a really important part of this person's question. And I think that
in 3 months.
Yeah, how am I going to do the book in 3 months? So this is the way I think about everything, is how I think about business from the start is, okay, start with a big audacious goal. So I just quite simply went, okay, I want to raise $1 million. And then I went, okay, in order to raise $1 million, what do I need to do? And I kind of like, I'm not strategic in terms of making a big business plan, but I'm strategic enough to go, okay, there's certain things that are going to get me there. So I went, okay, I want to raise $1 million. How am I going to do that? And then I went, okay, well, I need to bring something that's going to create passion and purpose and fuel. And then that's where I went, okay, the cookbook. Okay, cool. So now I have the cookbook. How do you get to $1 million in 3 months? Well, if I said, I'm creating this in the covers of the dark of the night, and then in July next year I launch it and I'm going to sell it, there is zero chance that I'm going to sell $1 million in 3 months. Zero chance. So I went, okay, during the time that I'm writing my book, when it launches, how do I make the net biggest impact? And so I went, okay, I need an audience. So you look at people like Inspired Unemployed, they launch a cologne last week. It's going to sell out in 2 weeks. Why? Why is that? Do they have a right to play in the cologne market? Absolutely not. But it's because they have a brand and they have influence. Why can Elon Musk launch a flamethrower and it sells out? Because people know Elon Musk. And so that was my thing. I said, okay, cool. Well, I don't have a brand. I need to create a brand. So from that moment, I said, okay, I need to create a brand through all the social channels. Cool. All right. What do I need to create a brand? So I kind of just keep stepping down this thing to go, okay, everything aligns to the big goal. As I step down, what are the steps I need to get there? And I went, okay, cool. Well, I need to be putting out content. How much of it do I need to put out? Let me learn from the best. Okay, it's like 5 to 10 pieces of high quality content each week. Okay, great. So then I said, okay, now my in order to get to my big ticket item, I need to have, I said, I make up numbers, Timbo. It's like one of my favorite things to do. I was like, I make up numbers because I want to set them in my mind. I go, I need to have an audience of 250,000 on Instagram and all the social channels combined by next July. Okay, cool. That's my big new goal. And then everything falls underneath that. But I think the biggest element for everybody is to note is 2 things. Number 1 is have the big audacious goal. That's that thing that drives you. And it's really easily explainable. So when someone comes to me, it's not like, hey, you're on a mission to raise charity for X, Y, and Z. It's just like, hey, I want to raise $1 million. I want to do it for children's cancer. That's really easy, really tight, really compact. I can talk about that fast. Next thing is like, do everything with pace. So like I started this journey. I didn't have Instagram. I did not have Instagram. I started this journey in roughly May this year. We now have 150,000 plus followers on there. I don't say that to go, hey, look at me, I'm so cool. But it's more like I go, hey, I need to, in order to get to there, I need this. And so, all I did was I immediately upon that conversation, I remember I was with my wife in Byron. I had created Brain Space. And then I said, I'm going to hire the guy that I originally brought on as an intern at 17 years old. He's like the most creative guy I know. I'm going to hire him to do my content. I got off, I sort of stopped talking to my wife. I pick up the phone. She goes, what are you doing? And I go, I'm calling Kai. I'm offering you a job. She's like, we haven't even talked about this idea further. And I was like, yeah, but like worst case scenario, we won't get a job. But 2 weeks later, like, let me just move now. So everything is with pace. And the same happened when I was on a holiday in July this year. I was walking down the road and I went, chew the fat. I went, that's an interesting terminology to use, like an interesting mix of words. I was like, that would make a great podcast. And I was like, okay, how would my podcast work? And I was like, I want to do the intersection between business, high performance, and food. And I went, okay, well, chew the fat. I will cook a dish and people will sit in front of their dish and they'll eat their dish for the first time. And then we start the conversation. I go, that's a unique way to approach a podcast. Before I left my holiday, Timbo, I had 5 guests lined up before I could arrive back to Soil. So I called my guy. I said, hey, I've got this idea. It's called Chew the Fat. What do you reckon? He goes, love it. By the time I arrived home 7 days later, I had 5 guests lined up because I just quickly sent off a few emails, made a few calls. And so everything I do, so like the big thing, the takeaway for everybody's understanding that like if you move with pace, I can think about a business plan. I can write it down. And for the next 12 months, I can go back and forth mentally going through like, what's the best approach of attack? Or after 3 months, I can move really fast, and then I can spend the next 9 months iterating actually based on real market feedback. And that's what I've been doing with the cookbook, because it's essentially a business. However, all the money goes to a great cause, not me. And so I can iterate really, really fast. So I go, hey, this Chew the Fat podcast, it's working. It's starting to build momentum. Great. And then just double down.
Moving with pace also allows for no interruption, no doubt, no little man on the shoulder to jump up and say, hey, Frank, you're a fool. You're a fool.
Yes.
There's no time for that. There's no room for that. Frank, I've got to ask, 150,000 Instagram followers since, what did you say, May this year? It's now November.
May, yeah.
May this year, now November. That's 6 months. You hired someone to do that. I mean, that's still pretty incredible. Can you give us one? Yeah. I mean, the whole social media thing, as my listeners know, bamboozles me.
Yes.
You look at some accounts and you go, I mean, how have they got that many followers? Then I look at some social media gurus who go, I'm the best at social media, and they've got no followers. It was there one thing that your bloke did to get 150? Yes. Yeah, what was it?
Yeah, so look, I do all the posting, the commenting, and all the stuff. Like it's through my hands, so that I'm quite intentional about that. He does all the content from the videoing and the editing. The biggest pathway to success, Timbo, was as follows. I wrote down in my kind of my brain dump of, okay, to get to $1 million, what I need to do the audience. To get to that audience, what I need to do. So I did one thing down. I need to find influential people that I can bring value to them through some kind of means that they would then want to share and collaborate over the posts. That was my single biggest impact. So what I did is I figured out, I have paying this content guy. He does incredible videos. I found a guy called the Boss of Bali, 2.3 million followers. I had lunch with him with no intentions. But then after having lunch, I went, oh, actually, tell you what, I will fly to Bali. I will get me and my guy will do all of this content. I will interview head chefs at your favorite restaurants and hotels. Would you collaborate on the post? And he says, absolutely, Frank, I'll do that. So I go to Bali for 5 days. I mean, boo-hoo, woe is me. I interview head chefs. I do all the stuff. We come back. We collaborate on the posts. The post got anywhere between 950,000 to 500,000 views on individual video posts because he's collaborated on them.
There's a bit going on there. You've got the ability to do some amazing things. You're producing high value, high production quality content. I'm guessing. Yes. I haven't seen it. You're going to exotic places. There's a whole lot of things there. What I want to say to listeners, including myself, who are listening to this and going, it's all very well for Frank Greef. He sold a business and got lots of dough to do this.
Yes.
I will challenge because I'm thinking that, by the way, Frank, as much as other people.
And I've got the answer for you too, yeah.
Well, I think the answer goes back to purpose. Because no matter how much dough you've got in the bank, if you're on purpose, you'll find a way. Is that your answer?
Yeah, correct. And the one other thing would be, okay, let's bring it down to let's make it something attainable for someone that can't go to Bali. Okay, you've got a local restaurant down the road for you that's been doing pretty well on Instagram. Let's say they have 15,000 followers. What can you do? What can you provide them with a give mentality, not a give and take mentality, that could make them want to collaborate on a post with you, right? So whether it be a restaurant, whether it be a local, whether it be a recruitment, doesn't matter what it is, there's something of value that you can provide for them through just creating connection, through building a relationship with them to go, hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, whatever that might be. Let's collaborate on a post. I'm telling you, there's someone out there that's close enough to you that would make sense that they will say yes because you're providing value to them. Mm-hmm. And through that, what happens is both your names are on that post. You have now been shown to 15,000 people, not the 400 that you have today. And you're essentially leveraging their network by doing that. Now, do that on scale. Do that to 10 businesses. Do that to 10 people. You've now expanded your potential from today you have 400 to now you have a market size of 100, 200,000 that weren't in your world. And that's how you create leverage.
I've got to say, and clearly it's worked for you. In theory, it should work. I must say my own experience, and I've interviewed, well, this will be the 650-something episode, and I've interviewed some pretty heavy hitters with some pretty big followings. I always send a note to my guests, as you would have experienced. Hey, Frank, your interview's now live. Here's the link. I'll be sharing it on my socials. I'll be doing a little electronic direct mail. Here's my album artwork from iTunes. If you'd like to put a link on your media section, you did it. You shared your episode with me on LinkedIn, which I am eternally grateful for. I'm amazed at how many don't. In fact, I'm very, very disappointed with how many don't. And I don't follow them up. I don't follow up the second email. I can't be bothered. But I guess the message there to anyone, if you are going to be a podcast guest, it's a two-way street. And I say that
That's
with my
right.
back up a
That's
little
correct.
bit
Yes.
because
Yes.
as much as I'm here to create great content for my own personal brand and to build the small business big marketing brand,
Yep.
I have no doubt that being on this podcast or other podcasts is also great for you or whoever else the guest is. And
Correct.
Anyway, I'll get off my high horse now, Frank, because
No,
I'm very
you're
grateful for
fine.
you.
Let me add one more piece there for the audience
mate.
too. Is around that idea. Like, I won't follow them up, Timbo. I think this is where we need to unlock from our brains the idea that, like, hey, I, Timbo, bring immense value, therefore I should follow up, right? So the way I had a guest yesterday who's just confirmed, I've been chasing him down since that holiday. He's got 350,000 followers on Instagram. I knew he'd be a great guest to get on because I can collaborate with him. Yesterday, he came back. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate it. Let's do it Friday, 2 p.m. Timbo, I have called him 6 times and I've sent him 12 text messages over the last 6 months. I will relentlessly go ahead because I know that I'm bringing value to him and he will bring value to me.
Yes.
There's a value proposition both ways. And so therefore, like, for everybody out there who's like doubting I've done 1 or 2, don't worry. As long as you are really deeply connected with your own value proposition, what you bring to the table, and you're not trying to milk someone for it, it's okay. One of the guests this week said to me something which was profound, was the CEO of Airbnb Australia. She said, it is not my decision to say yes or no. As if I'm going to be, let's say I'm getting a job in a corporate world, it's not my decision to make that call. It is the person who's hiring me who's going to make the call. They're going to say yes or no. It's the same as to when I'm selling something to someone. It is not my call to say yes or no. So if I don't speak to them and try and get them to say yes or no, that's on me because I haven't done that. And so you've got to follow up and let them make the decision for you. And then you can say, okay, what can I learn from that if it says no?
Well said, buddy.
I'll rest my case.
Well said. Is there anything left on the table? Is everything out? I don't want another note from long-time listener Ben Minutoli going, Timbo, still, mate. You didn't ask this, and this. I'm sure there's plenty we could cover, mate. But
I got one more. I got one more that the listeners might like.
I knew you would.
So this is it. So my new secret weapon, which hopefully people employ, is when I'm on a plane or I'm in somewhere on transit, try and create brain space. I went on this plane ride and I said at the start of the plane ride, I said to myself, what would it look like to raise $1 million in one day? So it was just a hypothetical, just challenging myself. And I then started writing down my piece of paper. Okay, in order to do that, I would need to create a party. And the party has to be tied into the brand. So it's going to be called Party with Purpose. Who would I need to get in that room to do so? And then I started mapping out what the potential network of people. So I went 100 of them need to be high net worth individuals, 5 million plus. 10 of them need to be in the billion category, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I started putting together this hypothetical list of people. Then I said it has to be a really cool event. And I started mapping out. So essentially, I won't go through all the details, but essentially I now have a new goal, which is on top of the 1 million in 3 months. I have a single night where we're going to do charity auctions and have businesses submit things that they want to kind of have submitted for auction. And we've challenged ourselves. I found a venue where we're going to get 350 people in the room, and I'm going to try and raise $1 million in a night with an exclusive invite only Party with Purpose. And so that's my new that's my new thing that's keeping me up at night too, Bo.
I love it, mate. I think the other big learning here, you have a giving nature, you are on purpose. You are very good at storytelling and explaining what it is you're going out to do. And in this case, you're going out to do something good for the world and it's charity-based. And yes, there's an underlying Frank Greef personal brand. And I get all that. There's nothing wrong with that. But in you telling your story to me, it makes it very easy for me now to suggest 2 things, and I'll do it on air. But for those listening, just be like Frank and share and be on purpose and be passionate, and others will want to help. So my help to you, Frank, is twofold. One is, and everyone's listened to this anyway, I interviewed the chief, what's his name? The chief of staff of the Today Show in Australia. His name is Joshua Del Pozo.
Love it.
And
yes,
he was an awesome guest. And the whole premise of that episode, which is about a year old now, was how do I get my business on the Today Show? And he explained it step by step. And he's very, very open, as are all media outlets, to great stories.
Yes.
So I'm going to introduce you to Josh because that is total amplification. And if you can't get on the Today Show, I'll go he. The second one is I emceed a conference a couple of weeks ago for a company called OneCo. Actually, it was called OneCo. It's now called Pro Purpose. And they're all about aligning businesses with causes and a good strategic alignment. that makes sense to both the business and to the cause.
Love it.
They actually had the CEO of World Vision speak, which was an absolutely incredible story.
Wow.
And past guest Daniel Flynn from Thank You also spoke at that conference. But I'm going to introduce you to the founder of that because I don't know what's there, but there's some kind of weird magic that between Alana, who owns Pro Purpose, and you could come up with. And I think that's how it happens, mate, isn't it? When you're doing
That's
good
right.
stuff,
That's exactly
when you're
right.
passionate, when you tell the story, people go, hey, you should do this, you should do that. Lots of learnings, brother.
People are attracted to it. And the last thing would be an analogy I have, which is I do so many things during a week, whether it be meetings that people look at me and they go, I don't understand, Frank. It's not going to be fruitful. I've had that with my brothers all the time. I see it like this. My analogy is this. I'm pulling on a thread and I don't know where that thread's going. I'm not sure, but every time, every meeting, every conversation, like this conversation, Timbo, there's a new thread that's going to get pulled. I just keep pulling, but I know that at the end there, I know exactly where I'm trying to go and things will pop out around. I really appreciate the time, Timbo. It was awesome.
Mate, either something will happen very good at the end of the thread or your pants will fall down.
That would also be fun too, so that's okay.
Absolutely awesome update, brother. Thank you. Now tell me, how can people follow you? What's the best place to do this?
Yeah, so thank you. So my two best places would Instagram, so Frank Greef _ that's where you're going to get an insight into the journey, which is all the food as well as all the business. And then secondly is to jump on and check out my podcast called Chew the Fat on Spotify, YouTube, or Apple Podcasts.
Love it, Frank. Good luck, buddy. And I will be checking back in about 6 months' time.
Good man. Thank you, Timbo.
Well, there you go, team. Frank Greef again. So much to love about that fellow and what he has to say. I love the chat around purpose, around creativity, and I love Frank's overall philosophy just around running a business and living a life you love. FYI, I've already done the intro to the Today Show's Chief of Staff, as well as Alana at OneCo. I love connecting people. I think it's one of the reasons I've been put on this planet. And a big thank you to Ben Minutoli for suggesting that follow-up chat. Good on you, Ben. Really appreciate your input, brother. Hey, if you'd like to watch that interview, anyone, feel free to lash out and join my incredibly expensive membership over at patreon.com/marketing podcast, where you'll find lots of marketing goodies to build that beautiful business of yours. Patreon.com/marketing podcast. If you'd like to join the discussion around this episode, also join Patreon, but you can also join the Small Business Big Marketing Tribe on Facebook, where a few of us get together and, sort things out. I'll see you on the inside. Righto, it's time for you to take action on what you have learned, because the ideas that you just got from that chat with Frank will remain exactly that without action. Please support the work I do for small business by joining my membership over at patreon.com/marketing podcast. Next week, you'll hear from a fellow who's built a mobile skip business into a multi-million-dollar concern through some pretty simple but effective marketing ideas. If you enjoyed today's episode, please hit the subscribe button on your favourite podcast app, because there's 658 more chats with successful business founders. And right now, they're all bloody free. Hey, how good's that? Big thanks to Sam for editing this gold together, and Lockie for the music bed. You guys rock. Most importantly, big thanks to you for tuning in, for lending me your ears, for taking action and building that business of yours. May your marketing be the absolute best marketing. Bye for now.